I just actually did want to do an official welcome to you all, and that we really are excited about this project, you know, our Family and Neighborhood Service Academy. First off, I would like to make an introduction of Dr. Robert Jones. He is the director here at the Downtown Health Plaza.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I was just going to take this opportunity to say how much we appreciate and enjoy having Imprints as part of our team here at the Downtown Health Plaza. We don't charge them extra for their office or anything.
So we hope that speaks well of us.
And coming from Baptist, that says a lot.
Yeah.
So we appreciate them a great deal. I didn't print enough of these, but these are just little blurbs about the Downtown Health Plaza, and it talks about, we have a thing on there about Imprints Cares also, but just some of our programs we have here. And for those of you that don't know, our primary service areas are the zip codes 27101, 27105. That's where most of our patients come from. If you look at it from a population health perspective, those are high need areas, and we have a lot of programs that address that in the community. We're not a federally qualified health center. Some people think we are, so I always like to clarify that. We're just a department, outpatient department of the medical center. But it's part of the mission of the medical center, so I have to keep reminding them of that sometimes, especially this time of year, budget year, because they want to have you take in more cash, but we don't have that. So the goal is to provide wraparound services as much as possible that people can easily access here in our clinics. So for example, KB Reynolds just gave us a nice grant for behavioral health integration. A lot of our, probably 50% of our pediatric patients have a behavioral health issue. And how can we get that addressed other than just saying, well, here's a referral to someplace? So we integrate the behaviors into the clinic. They're part of the team with the provider, and they can provide that service on the spot right then when the patient needs that. So that's true in all our clinics now. It's a new thing, and we're trying to make that work with CenterPoint and other areas, but Imprints fits so well into that because, and I use them a lot of times when I talk to administrative folks about this, is because they do the home visit, they help the parent recognize the developmental delay. All that's so important to engage in a relationship versus, you know, I see a different person every time, which does happen here, excuse me, because we're a resident clinic. But if you can build that relationship, and a lot of times it's through Imprints that they have the relationship with the Downtown Health Plaza. So it's a great organization, and we appreciate all you do.
Okay, well, thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Thank you
for
Thank you for yes. Thank you for allowing us to use your space. Okay. Oh, good. You were just in time. You are not
I'm glad to hear that.
Okay, and now I would like to kind of have everybody introduce themselves. I think I neglected to introduce myself. I'm Vicki Byers, and I am the Director of Imprints Cares.
And I'm Trina Stevens. I'm the Director of Community Engagement at Imprints Cares.
I'm Carter Shotwell. I do Wise Guys in Forsyth County.
I'm Berta Andrade with Imprints, Director of Ready for School.
I'm Nikita McDaniel. I'm a community organizer with Neighbors for Better Neighborhoods.
I'm Kenneth Pettigrew, Coordinator for Faith-Based Community Engagement, United Way.
And I'm Olitha Patterson. I'm a resident of the Civic community and also an impact member.
Alana James, I'm the Director of Community-Based Collaborations with United Way.
Nice to David, I'm with United Way as well.
Stacey McMillan Smith, Smart Starter for Forsyth County, and I'm our Family Scholarships and Engagement Coordinator.
Rick Brown, I'm Director of Program Expansion for Children's Home Society of North Carolina.
And I'm Dr. Sabrina Coon Davis for Children's Home Society as well, the Parent Education Program Supervisor.
Okay, well, one of the first things we thought we would do is to tell about each of our individual agencies so you know what the services are, what our history is, and why we're positioned to do this work. So we will start off with Stacy, who is from Smart Start of Forsyth County.
All Alright, so just to give you guys a little bit of an idea about our agency, Smart Start of Forsyth County has been here in Forsyth County for, this will be our 21st year. And we are the only agency in the state of North Carolina which is given a state statute to work with children that are birth to 5. So you guys might be familiar with North Carolina Partnership for Children, which is located in Wake County. That's kind of our head organization, and then each county has their own Smart Start agency that serves that county. So every county set up a little bit differently, and here in Forsyth County we have offered a variety of programs. So we currently offer a family scholarship program, which is the program that I run. We put about $2 million into the early childhood education system here to subsidize children who would not otherwise be able to afford to pay for childcare on their own. So every family that applies with us, currently we serve about 400 families through that program. And we have been doing that since the very beginning. And so we offer that payment for families to be able to go to our child care facilities. We also have technical assistance in our building, which also works with those child care facilities to try to help them bring up their quality ratings. We offer professional development as well for those providers. We currently have gotten into the area of teaching parenting classes. So our scholarship families are provided the opportunity to participate in parenting classes if they would like at free of charge. We've offered dinner at each one of those to make it convenient for families, and we're actually partnering with Imprints currently to do that, as well as some other organizations in our community such as the Health Department and Exchange Scan. We also offer the NC Pre-K program through our services. 27105 is our second largest zip code that we serve within Forsyth County. We have 20 child care providers that we currently contract with that live in that particular area. So we will definitely be able to, call on those individuals as resources. Smart Start of Forsyth County is also a funder. And so, although not at the larger caliber as United Way, but we do offer some funding. So we do fund part of Imprints Cares with parents as teachers. We work with Work Family. We fund a program with Forsyth Tech. And Exchange Scan is another one that we fund. So we do have some direct services as well as some services that we fund throughout Forsyth County. So we have been a presence in that particular area. And like I said, that's our second largest zip code that we currently serve with both NC Pre-K and with our scholarship program. So we definitely have a lot of families in that area we're already serving.
Okay, thank you, Stacy. Okay, and we were going to have a video first, but I think we will just have your description first. We've got to hook to the internet. Okay. so Rick Brown from Children's Home Society.
Okay. Well, good morning. So as you've heard, I'm Rick Brown, and happy to be here, and really excited about this collaboration between these three organizations for an approach that's really based in working with communities and in neighborhoods. Let me share with you a little bit about our organization, and then want to spend most of my few minutes telling you about some of the specific services that we would offer for this collaboration with these neighborhoods here in Winston-Salem. Children's Home Society of North Carolina is one of the older nonprofits in the state. It's been around since 1902. It's a statewide organization. The thing that most people know Children's Home Society for is our work with adoption and foster care, and we're very proud of that work. Another closely related service to that is called Intensive Family Preservation Services. Our mission is to ensure that every child has a permanent, safe, and loving family. And so while we are known for doing work with those children who need a home, who for some reason are not able to stay with their birth families, we also do work to try and strengthen families so that children don't have to leave that birth family in the first place. Intensive Family Preservation Services is a big part of that work. It happens in many families around the state, giving families skills, resources, support for them to be able to stay together and to form a bond that is safe and permanent and loving. There's another division of Children's Home Society that really is the one that would be happening in this collaboration, and the one that we all work with. So that's what I most want to share with you about. We have a division called the Family Life Education Services Division. And so that division, as you can tell by the title, works at doing family life education. We think that when parents and families have the skills and the tools to relate to each other and to care for each other in positive ways, and that those are used on an ongoing basis, that's really one of the most powerful things we can do to reach our mission of every child having a safe, permanent, and loving family. And again, when we do that, that reduces the number of children that ever wind up needing to have those foster care or adoption services. There are 3 programs in particular that we'll be offering as part of this collaboration. And so that's what I want to share with you about now. And do we have the internet yet? Or?
Yes, we do.
Okay, well, the first one is a program called Wise Guys, and we'll introduce that by letting you see the video. That's our Wise Guys racetrack.
Let's get real. Okay, listen. We're going to talk about values. We're going to have several activities that we're going to do, and then I want you to give me the top 3 things that are the absolute most important things for you right now, at this grade, at this age, and at this stage of life that you find yourself in, okay? So let me just read them and follow along. Making it on my own. Getting good grades.
Wise Guys occupies a unique space because they're really clear. They're about male responsibility. And when you say male responsibility, that's a whole lot more broad than just the physical pieces of how pregnancy occurs. It's about owning your own manhood and what that looks like and how you portray that. Wise Guys has really led the way with that.
Don't you guys always want to have all the information to make a good decision? In any situation, yes. Well, it's the same here. You need to be informed, which means you have all the information. Consent means you agree to it.
It's grounded in fact. It's well written, well thought out. You get kids to think about what really is important to me before you start talking about sex.
It's just not just dealing with, again, sexual intercourse. So you're talking about just empty relationships. You're talking about, again, building up your self-esteem. You know, we really did come out the course well more aware of a lot of things, you know, and better men for it. So I really enjoyed it.
Agree, disagree. Men who father children should share the responsibility of caring for them.
The culture within the school has shifted. You know, I used to hear a lot more of boys really disrespecting the females at the school. I don't hear that in our school now. It's more of a respectful and a we type of culture.
There's that commitment to how do we do it better? How do we make it relevant to today's young people?
So, hopefully that gives you somewhat of an idea what the Wise Guys program is about. We are in 12 counties around the state. Happy that we've been here in Forsyth County since 2011, and really slowly but very firmly building up a series of supportive relationships here to the point where we're now quite happy that Carter is based full-time in Forsyth County doing work with Wise Guys. Wise Guys began in Guilford County about 25 years ago. Guilford County at the time had one of the higher teen pregnancy rates for the more populous counties in the state. And because we have the goal of strengthening families, we know that one of the ways that can happen best is for families to begin when parents are ready for them to begin, or at least more ready. I don't know if you're ever completely ready.
No.
But certainly you were less ready when you were 14, 15, 16 years old. And so we looked at the issue of teen pregnancy, looked at what was being done, looked at where there were gaps in service, did some research, It was one of those rare times in research where we got a 100% finding. You don't get 100% on anything in research too often in social causes, but we looked at the teen pregnancies that were happening and found that in 100% of the cases there was a male involved with those teen pregnancies. That was a I think I've still got the report if anybody.
Is there a video?
We won't answer that. So, you know, it's something we laugh about, but at the same time, it was really sort of a duh moment, because teen pregnancy prevention programs at that time, still very much for the most part, are geared towards who? They're geared towards the females. And of course that makes sense. They're the ones who can get pregnant. They're the ones who literally and figuratively have the consequences to bear of teen pregnancy. But guys are involved. However, nobody was doing anything on any type of systematic ongoing basis to bring males into the equation for finding a solution to teen pregnancy. And so we created a program called Wise Guys. And we're proud of the fact that as far as we know, and we're pretty sure of this now, it was the first of its kind to address males. We've been doing it for 25 years. It's a well-evaluated program with a solid body of evidence behind it, showing that it makes a difference in knowledge, attitude, and behavior on this issue. And certainly the knowledge is important. You know, one of the things you hear now is teenagers know so much more than they did before. I think the distinction we would put on that is that teenagers are a lot more experienced than they are before. But in terms of having actual correct understanding, there are just as many dangerous misunderstandings that are in place as there were when we were in teenagers. Our educators could all tell you lots of stories of the questions we get as the guys become comfortable with us and feel like they can ask us things.
We're a lot of fun at dinner parties.
Yeah. So, you know, we address those things. We get into, you know, how pregnancy happens and how it doesn't happen, and how protection works and how it doesn't work. We get into the risks. We talk about sexually transmitted infections, and that means a lot more than just HIV/AIDS, although we talk about that too. We talk about abstinence, and really stress abstinence is a viable option for teenagers, and try to help them understand that a lot more teenagers are abstinent than they might think from the talk that they hear in the locker room when everybody feels compelled to sound like they're experienced. But we do more than just talk about the biology of it. Hopefully, as you saw in the video, there's really a lot in our program that helps guys deal with their understandings of what it means to be masculine and what it means to be a man. Because we all know that those understandings a lot of times have a huge part to play in the risky behavior that some guys choose to engage in, especially when it comes to their relationship and sexual behavior. They feel that they are proving their manhood by being sexually active while they're a teenager. So we try and help them develop a better and a different picture of manhood, a picture of manhood based on being strong enough to be responsible, to take the responsibility for the consequences of your actions. And if those actions are fathering a child, then that consequence is being responsible for that child. But if what you would rather do is have your teenage years for other things, then Wise Guys can help them find the best ways to help that happen too. We are an agency that loves collaboration and has a history of it. Wise Guys happens always in collaboration with other organizations, particularly school systems. Carter's developed some good relationships here in Forsyth County with schools and other organizations. We work closely with health departments. We work closely in some communities with Smart Start and Partnership for Children. Very quickly, where Wise Guys is happening in Forsyth County currently, at a number of rec centers, 14th Street Rec Center, Polo Park, W.R. Anderson, International Boys and Girls Club, also Ken Carlson Boys and Girls Club. We are at Walkertown Middle School, Jefferson Middle School, Philo Hill Middle School starting this month. Carter's talking with Main Street Academy and trying to get that worked out. So the program is really slowly and surely growing here in Forsyth County, and we feel good about that. There are some specific statistics and information on teen pregnancy in Forsyth County in your packet that I hope you'll take a look at. I won't cover all those details here, but what we did is when you look at teen pregnancy rates in North Carolina, North Carolina mostly has smaller and more rural counties. And when you look at a county like Forsyth County, it makes more sense to actually compare that to the other larger and more urban counties in North Carolina. So when you take the 5 largest North Carolina counties and look at their rates, Forsyth certainly has some reason for concern. Forsyth has the highest teen birth rate of any of the 5 largest counties in North Carolina, the second highest teen pregnancy rate for those same counties. And you've got those numbers. In terms of specific risky behaviors engaged in by Forsyth teens that are at risk for pregnancy or sexually transmitted infections, we find that of high school students in Forsyth County, 42% have had sexual intercourse. Now that's all high school students. If you just looked at the older 17 and 18-year-olds, that would be most likely over 50%. 6% having first sexual intercourse before the age of 13. 15% more than 3 partners, and of course the higher the number of partners, the higher the risk for both pregnancy and sexually transmitted infections. 18% saying they have used drugs or alcohol at their last sexual intercourse, which of course is entirely the opposite direction you want to go for healthy decision making. Just over half, 57%, used a condom at last sexual intercourse. That also means almost half not using that type of protection. And disturbingly, and this number is pretty consistent with what we see other places, about 1 in 10 reporting having been forced to have sexual intercourse. Wise Guys also talks a lot about healthy relationships, respectful relationships, and talks about date rape and how guys can avoid those things. The other 2 programs that we want to bring to the table for this collaboration for the neighborhood-based work are a fatherhood program, really sort of an extension of Wise Guys working with fathers this time. A program done by the National Fatherhood Initiative called 24/7 Dad, working on helping men to develop positive skills for parenting, positive pictures of masculinity, again, just like we do in Wise Guys, a positive approach to discipline. One of the things that's interesting that happens when dads first get in our program, we give them a survey to sort of see where they are on some things. And we ask them to grade their own father, their own experience with their father coming up, and give them a report card grade for how he did as a dad. 42% of those men give their dad an F. We asked them later in the survey if they would want to use the same approach that their father did. 70% of those guys say yes. They say it was their fault that things didn't work good with their dad. And so they want to use what they know. Well, we want to help them expand those skills. The program, the other parenting program that we're using is community-based parenting, very much designed for place-based, helping parents develop positive skills for discipline, communication, understanding feelings. Both those programs work to help parents support each other. Both of them are evidence-based. And I'm running out of time, but if we have time afterwards, glad to answer questions. And we're excited to be here and the potential for this work.
Thank you, Rick. You know, Imprints Cares, their whole focus is really to close the achievement gap, and we do that by supporting parents throughout the journey of parenthood. So we'd like to say we close the achievement gap before it begins. I want to give you this brief overview of the agency because I think video does it the best. So this is just a couple of minute video, 4 minutes.
Well, I've been with Imprints Cares for over 23 years, and one of the reasons I called to this organization was because of my role of raising 9 children, and just knowing how daunting parenting can be, even in the best circumstances. Parents need support. Over 50% of children arrive at school not ready for kindergarten, and that only gets worse because children who start school behind stay behind. So those first years are very critical. You know, it's also critical in terms of the brain development. That's where the greatest impact can be made. Parents are the key figure for that brain development.
In our practice, Imprints Cares works up to age 5. So a child under age 5 who's beginning to have developmental issues or acting out issues, we'll have the Imprints Cares coordinator work with them so we can get them to the appropriate behavioral or development specialist.
The family educator can go to the home and in that setting show the parent how to themselves help this child.
Imprints Cares is an important program in my life. When I was 7.5 months pregnant, I was expecting my first child, Vladimir. I was very new in the area. I had a long list of questions. In that moment that I need someone to help me, I met my family educator. She went to my house once per month.
The family educators do group meetings where they bring parents together so that they can socialize and support each other.
She gave me support. She was like my mom, my family educator, my friend. She gave me to feel confident what I'm doing. She was there. Imprints Care was there.
What we do here at Imprints Cares is to support parents throughout their journey of parenthood. We know that parents consider their pediatricians the foremost experts. One of our pediatric partnerships is at the Downtown Health Plaza.
When we built the Downtown Health Plaza in 2000, we invited Imprints to be a part of the facility. And they've been great partners for 15 years now. We send lots of referrals to them.
It's a good partnership for us because we can spend more time with the families. You know, if the physicians are able to see that a child has a delay, they may refer them to us for further resources. Or if the parent has an issue, say about behavior, they would refer them to our family educator.
I've seen Imprints Cares work with parents to bring out the best potential in the child and the parent.
Imprints Cares is extremely important to our community.
Imprints after school care is a great model.
My name is Stoney. I've been in Imprints Cares since kindergarten.
When I bring Stoney here, Imprint Cares on Friday, he's very excited about it. He gets up on time. I know that he's in a safe environment while I'm at work.
One of the pluses about the program is that it's on site at the children's schools. We are able to hire the teachers who are able to help children with their homework as well as provide expanded learning activities.
When I don't get to go to Imprints, I feel like this. When I do get to go to Imprints, I feel like this.
We did not want him to do that. So he's our great spokesperson. So I think this gives you a good idea of what we do. You know, and I also want to talk about, like, we've been working in these neighborhoods a very long time. You know, while we may not have a huge number of clients there now, we've had experience with more at 4. You know, we are in this pediatric practice, which serves a lot of the families in that zip code area. We are also in Winston East Pediatrics, which is also adjacent to the neighborhoods. But one of the things, we were actually taking a tour of the neighborhood with everybody just the other day, and what we realized is that most of my leadership team did direct service in those families. It's Berta, Trina, me, and Betty. So it's like, we know these neighborhoods. We've actually been there. You know, we've gone and had groups in Lakeside and various communities. We've worked in the Ward 4 programs. So we feel like, you know, we really do have a history, and, you know, and really are excited about going back. You know, I think we would say also a big part of our family-centered approach is what will make us effective with this community work, you know, the community engagement work. You know, I know y'all mentioned about kind of how our philosophy, and we had a lot of community engagement work, but I think we have experience with that, because I think you'll even hear in that video, is how we engage the families and also how we engage others in the community. So again, I think we're well positioned for that. And we have had a vision of wanting to be in a neighborhood for a long time. You know, so we're excited to have that opportunity. Okay, now I want to kind of, well, if you'll also look at these mission statements. As we look at this collective, we have the right partners. We feel like that, one, we can philosophically and mission-wise are attuned. And in a collaborative, that's really, really important. That it's not just the services you deliver, but how you deliver those services that we think is key to the community. And we are starting a continuum with these services, that we can start at birth, and with the Wise Guys start directing a continuum through adolescence. And we think that's very important, you know, that we'll be able to start getting the kind of outline for a continuum. I'm going to flip on the side. In our proposal, you know, I know we did a little graph, and it was kind of linear, you know, where we talk about embedding and doing training as well as doing sustaining. And we realized, you know, it was not linear, you know, that we are going to be doing all of these things at one time. You know, it's much more of this nature. So, for instance, let me get my sheet, where we talk about engaging the community. You know, that's where we will knock on door to door, because we don't know the residents there now, but we will knock door to door, find out what they want, who they are, invite them to community chats. We expect to have some neighborhood events. And then as we get to know the residents, we'll be able to identify community priorities and goals. And then we can identify the families from these community chats who would be interested in our services. You know, the non-intensive services is rather the intensive services. And one of the things you should know too is we know we're known by our Parents as Teachers program, but we really offer more than Parents as Teachers. We offer like kindergarten readiness services, pregnancy education services. We're able to do triple P, which is like positive discipline. We do breastfeeding consultations. We do infant massage. And then partnering with the Wise Guys, the 24/7 Dad, and the Nurturing Parents curriculum. You know, we just think we have a whole wonderful array of services to really support all parents in this community. And then we are able to link families to various services in the community if we find out what their needs are, because that's one of the things that our educators are also really experienced with, is we know what the services are. We know how to make connections to families. And then, again, we can provide those really intensive services, because they're not going to be necessarily a lot that could do those intensive services. For instance, the Parents as Teachers requires a 5-year commitment, or 2 to 3 year commitment. And it's twice a month, it's group meetings, so that may take a while, but yet that will be offered. And then we also will mobilize community partnerships. That's what we plan to do right now. You were asking what we wanted to do from now through July. It's like we're going to go into those communities. And like I mentioned earlier, just a couple of days ago, we took a tour through all the 13 neighborhoods. We wrote down the churches, the businesses, and that's where we're going to start making those connections. Although we have a lot of connections already because of our history with More at 4. You know, we worked in several of the schools, and then Stacy with Smart Start is connected to over 20 providers, and we think that's going to be a great resource for access to the families. But we also plan to you know, to talk to Forsyth Tech, to talk to the libraries, you know, to the Safe Kids program and the recreation centers. So that will be our work from now through July. And then we would say we have what's called adaptive learning, that we think we're really good at improving what we do, because a lot of this work right now is experimental. You know, we've not been in this neighborhood setting of how to pull it together, to find out what the parents want, how we can meet their needs. So I feel like we're going to need to kind of back up and maybe evaluate to see how that we can be more effective. And as one of those really important things that we felt like that not only did we offer our like evidence-based program, but that we were able to meet them really where they are with whatever services that we have to offer. So that makes sense. And we also know that sometimes first needs may not be parenting. You know, that there may be other needs for like helping to clean up a neighborhood or dealing with some safety issues. And we feel like we're really good at meeting people where they are and are very willing, you know, to help kind of get those wins at the very beginning. You know, and that's where we hope that we'll be able to move the needle. And then we are able to offer again these workshops and trainings that are to parents but also to teachers in the community. You know, that we can provide, I know through Smart Start and through us, you know, the training for teachers. And then this touch points, which is, to me, it's this whole philosophical approach to how you effectively work with families. So this is geared toward agencies, because I think my sense is that there are a lot of programs out there, but it's how they engage. They need to know how to engage effectively with parents. And Touchpoints was designed by sort of the pediatrician guru, T. Barry Brazelton, on how you effectively work with families. And so we feel like, yes, you're working with the families, but you also need to be working with the agencies. And just as much as we're trained in this philosophical approach, we think this whole philosophical approach is important. And we feel like it's very in line with the assets-based development. You know, these all seem to work together.
Sure. So the Touchpoints training would be geared towards agencies, and that would be provided by Smart Start, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so Smart Start would go to organizations, some of those that you've kind of mapped or will be mapping.
Yes.
And that is around ensuring that those agencies are able to better work with families. Okay. Are there particular, is it for any agency that works with families? Is it a...
Yes, Stacey, you can speak to that.
Touchpoints is really based on Durham County is already doing Touchpoints in their community, so they are a nationally recognized Touchpoints community in Durham County. They have a Touchpoints coordinator that works for their Smart Start agency, which is Durham County Partnership for Children. And I had extensive conversations with her about how they kind of roll this out. They got some foundation money to help them kind of roll this out in their community. So they've been doing it now for about 4 years. And anybody who touches a child or family in any way can go through the training in their community. So what they have done is they have had 5 individuals over the years that have gone and gotten trained the trainer kind of training, and then brought it back to their community and continued to train more and more people within their community. So pediatricians, nurses, folks who work at the Children's Hospital. They currently have a partnership with Duke. So they are really kind of trying to meet those practitioners, whereas I have training in early childhood education. Somebody who's a pediatrician doesn't. Somebody who's a pediatric nurse doesn't. So figuring out how to help those practitioners figure out how to work with families in a strength-based type way. We hear from our families all the time that get our scholarship that they go to practitioners and they feel, you know, terrible when they leave because they're always told all these things about everything they're doing wrong. And so we really want to change the conversation to what are you doing right and how do we help you do that better. And so that's really what Touchpoints is about, is meeting a family where they are, assessing what their strengths are, and helping them to continue to work with those strengths in order to meet some better needs in other areas.
So is your vision for the entire, for the entire area, anybody in the specific neighborhoods?
Any practitioner in that particular neighborhood, but also somewhere like here, Downtown Health Plaza. I know that's not really in the neighborhoods, but we already know they serve a large population. We know there are dentists in that area. From our driving around the other day, we saw 2 or 3 different dentist offices. So we know that there are lots of agencies, just like with my child care providers. We know that's the second largest zip code, but those are not the providers necessarily that the families who live in those zip codes are choosing to leave their children with. So we know that we have practitioners that are not in those zip codes that are also serving families. So we would like to kind of expand that to those that are serving the families in those neighborhoods, not just located within the neighborhoods. But we'd like to start with the ones that are located there and then kind of branch from there.
Yeah, Alana, this can be as big as, you know, community-wide, Forsyth County-wide. Anyone who, you know, like DSS, the workers, because when Stacy said that in talking with her families, when we did a focus group with families that live in the neighborhoods recently, that was one of the biggest things that came out of that focus group, is that when they approached organizations, they felt like they were looked down upon, or the person that was behind the counter didn't have any type of empathy or sympathy for what their situations were. So it's basically, you know, touching anybody who works with a family. So it could be countywide, working with, you know, DSS, working with the school systems, working with, you know, anyone who touches a family. So we see this as part of, you know, a system-wide change for Forsyth County.
You know, it's to do all of us need to do something different. You know, and we're trying to figure it out.
So what I was thinking about was the other grantees that'll be working in that area, because regardless of their focus area, they're in some kind of way connecting to the young people or even the families.
Exactly.
So that's a really cool.
Yes. One of the things Durham County did is they specifically sort of targeted groups. So it was like you got nominated. This is kind of how they got practitioners to be interested in coming, because just because we have it doesn't mean anybody wants to come, right? Right. So they kind of nominated folks to come. So it was like an honor that you are nominated to get to come and participate in this group, because it is a time commitment. It's an 8-session. So it's an 8-session over a 6-month period. So you actually take some of the practices, you go back, you implement them, you come back, you do some self-reflection, you go back and try again, come back, do some self-reflection. So it's kind of an ongoing learning process. It's not like a one-time workshop and you're done tomorrow kind of thing. And so what they did in their county was you were nominated, and then everybody gets a certificate at the end, and they have like a luncheon to kind of have like a graduation sort of thing. And so different agencies have engaged in different ways, and they have, like at DSS, she said they have already trained 50 of DSS's employees in Durham County. So different agencies engaged in different ways. Some people only have one person in their agency trained. Some people have, you know, 50, 60 people. So it just depends.
I hear this, and it's very compelling. So my thought is, how can specifically faith communities tap into that kind of work? Because the faith communities in the civic area in particular are already very active and are becoming more active as civic funding and through this process. So how could faith communities plug into this, or is there really a space in it for them?
Oh, I think there definitely is. I think, you know, those individuals could be trained on their own, because just because, you know, just like, you know, I go to church in our community, and there are lots of people in our church who own businesses or work in different professions, and even the folks who, you know, work in the faith-based community, you still touch families. So it's really about how can we help strengthen these families, regardless of what your everyday job is, but how can we touch families in every way that we can?
And it really is that general. You know, I mean, Brazelton's that general. He's going, it's everybody who touches a family
in any way
needs to know how to do this.
And Stacey, talk a little bit, because, you know, we would send, you know, someone from Smart Start as well as someone from Imprints will probably get the initial training. However, talk about how when you come back and how then other people can, the way that the system is lined up, other people can go get the training. I mean, you can come back and do the training, but there's also a way that, you know, when you come back, the initial people go, other folk can go.
So Brazelton is located in Boston. And they require that 3 people come and be trained as a team first. And so we've identified some members from Smart Start that would be interested, as well as Imprints has identified some folks. And so we would be essentially train the trainers. So in order to train the trainers, you have to be trained by Brazelton. You have to go there. You can actually look him up online. He's like a 94-year-old man or something. He's very elderly, but he's been doing this for a long time.
He's a pediatric guru.
But he is, and he's written many books. He's very well respected in the community. So what Durham County has done is they sent their 3, and then the next year they went back to the foundation and asked for some additional funds, and then they sent 2 more, and then they've sent 2 more. So in their community, they have almost 10 train the trainers. So they have 10 people who can go out and train the masses. Right now, we'll just initially do the 3, but I definitely see that as an area. So if the faith-based community was interested, we could send a pastor from the area to go and get the training, and then they could train other people too.
So there'd be 3 staff members that would be trained in the touch points training as a trainer initially, and then those 3 staff members could train other.
They can train
and you say practitioners, but this could be, you know, small business owners. It could be child care providers. I know you mentioned that Work Family Resource Center was one of the potential partners around identifying in-home providers, in-home child care providers for licensing. So that could be another opportunity for.
It's anybody who's there. That's why we just felt like this made sense, you know, that for us to really do this asset-based work, that it needed to be done from the community side as well, that we all had something to learn.
And it can be teachers, principals. I mean, it really can be anybody who touches a child in any way. And so we know that there is, in this community in particular, I feel like when I talk to these families, they do feel like they're kind of talked down to when they go to agencies over at social services or, you know, different places. And so we're talking about social workers, we're talking about food and nutrition workers, Medicaid, you know, the whole thing. I mean, WIC. I mean, so it's a large gamut of practitioners in this area, as well as faith-based community and all. I mean, the goal is to get as many trained as we can, you know, in the touch points method.
Okay, well, let me just go on to the last phase, which really is the most exciting, you know, to support the community leaders. And we really start expecting to identify community leaders right out of the gate. You know, that was an important piece of our budget. You know, that we really wanted to, you know, when we knock on the doors, we would do the community chats. That's who we're going to start identifying so that they will be our partner. You know, they'll work with our family educators, they'll be a part of the chat, they'll be a part of the recruitment, and we will listen to them for who needs to be trained. You know, we expect right out of the gate for there to be the partner, and we've put stipends. We had thought originally we might do one position, but we decided there might be one or two in several neighborhoods so that we would offer stipends because we think they should be paid. You know, again, it's like we're really being able to shift so that we are bringing resources and we're bringing money. You know,
that was a resident opportunity,
right.
or resident opportunities. I saw you said one full-time navigator or multiple individuals who are on a stipend basis.
Right, exactly.
And they'd be trained in
asset-based and
as Imprints really representatives, though.
Exactly,
right.
definitely,
right.
definitely.
And we don't know what they might want to do, you know, because it's like we will hopefully be able to get them trained in whatever, you know, whether it's some kind of job training, it might be childcare, it might not be, you know, but we will find that out. And that is the thing we're most excited about. But it's also where we have the most to learn, and that's why we feel like we will do that adaptive learning. You know, but we will figure it out. And I feel like, you know, all the three of us really interface with parents in that way. You know, we have a heart and we listen well to these, you know, to community people. And I forgot what I was going to say.
But overall, as you can see, I mean, it's a continuum, like we said. We did not want this to be a linear type of project. This is a continuum, continuous learning, continuous quality improvement, and no matter where we're at, it's all about engaging the community and building those relationships. We know that, you know, trust doesn't happen immediately, so we have to build that. So that's what it's about, building that trust, getting to know each other. And as a person who has lived in both Dreamland, Lakeside, and the community, I know it very well, and I know that, you know, it was great then, it's good now, but we can get in there and make some big changes.
And, you know, one of the things, you know, that we've done with our agency, again, thinking what our history has been, is like, for instance, we have just hired one of our families that we work with. He's a chef. And so we've hired him to do board meetings and to do some of our meetings. We also
have one family that we invited her to our group connections to do face painting. So we posted on the Facebook, and then Chick-fil-A is one of our sponsors also. So they saw that. They said, "Who did your face painting?" They contract with her. Our marketing director did all her business cards and flyers, and now she has contracts with other agencies to do face painting.
Yeah, and in fact, you know, talking to this person who's the chef, you know, we were meeting with one of our board members and told him that he had lost his job, you know, but, you know, what incredible food, what a hard worker is, and she said, "I'll find him a job." You know, so we feel like, you know, we're doing that, you know, and that's why we really feel excited about it. In your packet, you're going to find this. This is sort of the Grafenbrenner theory of human development. You know, and it's at the child is at the center, but it's all the things that are around the child that inform that development. And so while you're doing child development, you have to be building community. And we feel, because we work with young families of young children, we have the chance of building a community. When we talk to a couple of the mothers, residents in communities, they are a tour de force to do what's right for their children. It's like they are going to do or die what's right. So we feel like we have their energy of trying to do what's best for their families. And we hope to be able to build community through supporting families through the education of young children.
Any questions?
So we thank you for the questions that we received.
Yes.
You know, we sent follow-up questions, and I appreciate that you were able to clarify, even in this presentation, fine-tuning some of the approach that you were going to take. And I think with the sphere that you just had there, it does look a lot more like it will be concurrent entry points.
Exactly.
And I think what one of the challenges that we had with the Impact Council members and those who reviewed was that it seemed like a couple years almost of engagement work.
Exactly.
So what it sounds like is from each of the partners that those will be the primary entry points into
Yes.
this work. So parents
Yes.
and teachers, Triple P, 24/7 Dad, Wise Guys, and then with touch points kind of as the entry point, if that's correct, with touch points. So this work will really be the multiple entry points